All right, there she is, 1979 Ford 555. Got the bucket propped up so it doesn't fall on me. I've pulled out the 3 injectors. This thing seemed to be locked up. I think that I got some water in the fuel. Here's the injectors. Not really sure what I'm looking at, to be honest. New to working on diesels. I'm gonna turn this thing over and see if it'll turn over. Blow some water out of there maybe. Okay, here we are on the other side. It's the only way I can reach the ignition though. Try to show you what's going on with the injectors out. All right, back to the 79 Ford 555. Cracked the injectors like you saw. Took them out, started over, and a ton of fluid was coming out of the rear and some of the center. So I'm thinking I got water in there. I thought at first it was from the fuel, but I think it's probably more likely the head gasket's gone on this thing. And it probably went because I got a leak in the rad right in here. Been topping it up every time I use it, but I don't run it that long, and I definitely don't run it hard. Anyway, I'm going to start by pulling this radiator out and fix that, and then see if we can get this thing running again. Get my little project on the way, and then I'll be rebuilding that head, I guess, doing the gasket at least. Magnafluxing and pressure testing the head and all that stuff. Okay, so starting out, we got to pull these big weights off the sides here. So I went and picked up 1 1/8 inches on this breaker bar, and these already cracked pretty decently. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those off of both sides to get this hood off, because you can't get the rad out from in there without getting the hood off. Okay, so I pulled the weights off. There they are, super heavy. I would recommend a second person. And this one here, the 2 bottom ones here go in there, and this big weight underneath here is actually suspended by those on both sides. So obviously that started to sag when I pulled the one side off, so I got a jack under there and got those weights off, and that exposes this other bolt here, which holds this whole metal front shell on. So what I found is this front shell is supporting a lot of stuff. There's a barrier halfway back in here that kind of runs up around the sides, and I've got this hydraulic fluid radiators bolted to it, so that's got to come out. And then this big tank, the hydraulic fluid's got to come out as well, because it's just attached to the side up in here on both sides. So that's got to come out, that's got to come out, just so I can access the coolant radiator, which is on the other side of that barrier. You can see the barrier in the back here. Kind of comes down, and it's got a little foot that comes around and sits on top and holds onto the top of the rad here. So I'd like to get this radiator out. I've got a leak right in the fins here, but this is turning into a crazy amount of work. That thing is so buried in there. Anyway, I went ahead and I drained the hydraulic fluid. There's a 7/8 plug right there, and I got this little Home Depot bucket, and it fit right in the big cavity. Filled it up a couple times, ended up with a whole bucket, a full-size bucket of hydraulic fluid. And I don't know if this is how it's supposed to look. Stuff we use at work I know is red. I don't know if this is bad or just a different type. Then I pulled the dipstick and realized that I got bigger problems than I thought. Got kind of a sludgy, milky consistency in the motor oil here, and it's way over full. So I've definitely got, I guess, rad fluid in the oil. So I'm thinking I got rad fluid in the head, and that's what the fluid was. This thing was like hydro locked, it wouldn't turn over. So once I pulled the injectors, it sprayed all that out. You saw that in the last video. And then now I've got it in the oil. So I've got a cracked head, I guess. I don't know. I'd love for you guys to tell me what's going on here, what the best thing to do next is. I'm going to continue working and getting this clamshell off, which is a crazy amount of work to get to that front rad, but I'll do that. Get that front rad out there, and I'm going to have to fix or replace that. To get started, it's probably the source of a lot of these problems. And then I'm going to have to get into the head, because the head's obviously got a problem, whether it's just the head gasket or the cylinders down below. I'm not 100% sure. And then I read somewhere that you can pull the oil pan as well. Looks like it, again, it's part of the structural integrity of the tractor with these huge bolts in here. But I guess that's the oil pan. I'm not sure how that's going to come out. Doesn't look like it's going to be very easy. Then you can check in the cylinders, see where your leak is. Yeah. I also got a fuel leak. All these lines are leaking down in here. Diesel's leaking out of like 3 different spots. All these guys are leaking now. This thing was running great. I don't know what's going on, but please let me know. All right, got the hydraulic tank out. It's got these straps on it, and you don't need to take those off. I did. Those strap around, and they go onto these metal plates, which are bolted right in there. So if you just take these off, I'm pretty sure it'll slide down and clear these guys and slide right out. Anyway, that's what's going on now. So there is the hydraulic radiator. You can see I put a wrench on it. I got all these, what do you call them, old oil things cut apart. Fancy ways like this one. They're pretty nice when you're undoing these hoses like the two on this guy to sneak them under there and catch all that hydraulic oil, or a lot of it anyway. Anyway, I'm kind of afraid to undo this thing. It's pretty tight. I don't have a second wrench that'll fit on there right now. So anyway, I've got the bolts that hold this guy in. There's 2 on this side, 2 on that side. So this thing is actually free right now, and I've got a piece of wood here just wedged holding it in, and this is a hard line, so I think it's fine just sitting there. I'm pretty sure this shell will just pull directly up now and come off of it. This is the little hose on the top, and that's, let's see, it comes right off there, straight in the back, and that's like a return path, I guess, for the turbo. Comes right into the turbo here. Oh, my mistake. It goes right past the turbo, over top of the turbo, and runs down over there. Anyway, I'm not exactly sure what that is. Guess it doesn't matter. It's all gonna go back. Okay, so here it comes, right over here and into this guy. And again, don't know what that is. Realize I got an old temperature sensor here on the turbo too that's not hooked up. I'm gonna have to get something on there. None of the gauges or anything work inside this thing. I just want it to work. I want to move some dirt and some rocks around, have fun, play with the backhoe, but now we're into a huge amount of engine work. So anyway, got the tank off. I'm gonna have to rig this thing up. I'm gonna rig off these 2 bolts and get a jack up to the boom here or something, strap it, and then start jacking this thing up and off, and then slide it out of the way and access the radiator and get it out and put some pressure to it and see where the leaks are coming, and see if I can put some JB weld or something in there to seal it up, because I know that a new one's about 300 bucks, so see how that goes. There it is. She is off. So there's a little divider in the middle there and the cross brace. This is the front of it. So I tied a little piece of webbing on here, and then I put a ratchet strap up there, and I had a set of rope blocks, mechanical advantage 5-to-1, and up it came. So that divider piece goes right in between the two radiators. So you can see the other one's just sitting there, but it's fine. And then you can see there's definitely wetness across the top here that's been leaking. And then here are the wet marks here. So I don't know if that's dripping off of here. It's probably dripping off here onto there. Anyway, it's looking pretty good. So time to pull the rad. I'm gonna pull this shroud off here. So 1/4 inch, 3 on each side. Pull the shroud back and then figure out how the radiator's attached. It's just water in there right now, so I've got it draining right now. And I popped the top off there already, and it's not too crazy on there. I think there might be just 2 bolts down here on the front. So I'll figure that out, pop it out, and let you know what I find. Okay, next step here, in between the 2 radiators, this plate came out of there, goes way down in there, separating it. Once you take that out, I believe they're 1/2 inch nuts. Underneath the corners of the coolant radiator are these 2 nuts. So you'll get at them up underneath here with your deep socket, and that's 11/16. So you get those out, and those are attached to essentially bolts that stick straight down off the bottom of the rad. We've got all our hoses off except for these 2 in here. They're quite difficult to get at because of the shroud. So you take the shroud out, boom, it can't get anywhere. You can't get at these at all. Super brutal. And you can't lift the radiator out because the shroud hits the bottom of the fan. So I'm gonna cut that shroud a bit so that won't happen to me next time, I guess, or something. I think that's crazy, but I lean this forward as far as I could and that back, and if you look right down in there you can see one of the fittings, and I stuck my big crescent right down in there. I was able to get a good grip on it, pop that off, so that's off now. Once that's off, the radiator's going to come out, the shroud's going to stay in, because they can't come out together. You can't lean it far enough forward to clear the fan. So that's the next step. Hopefully we'll have this thing out in a few minutes before it gets dark. Okay, got her out. Perfect. So to avoid that hassle I had there, I think I'm going to trim just a little tiny bit off here. So once you remove this, you can bend the radiator back and just lift it out. You won't have any access issues with the fittings that were onto these 2 smaller guys here. I'll show you over here at the hoe. Here they are here, this one, and they're kind of flexible, but anyway, you got to get a 1 inch open end wrench. I was using my big crescent, and you just gently pull back on this shroud. There's 6 little 1/4 inchers in the side there, so you pull that back, get your hand in between there, get your crescent on there, or sorry, not your crescent, your open end, 1 inch, or your crescent, it worked, and just sit there for a minute and spin them all off. Don't bother trying to pull the thing out until you get that done. Save yourself the headache. And then we can see everything in here. All right, and I'm thinking it might be probably advantageous to just do the head and everything now that I got this thing this far apart. I wonder what you guys think, because if I get the front end back on, at least I can run it, maybe move it up closer to the garage. I'm kind of way out here in the forest. All right, well, thanks for watching if you are watching, and hope I could help somebody out maybe down the road. Cheers.